Welcome to the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 37. This week I'm joined by Rich Banks, who is the music man for the Adam Carolla Show and the Dave Damashek football program. We discuss everything from the Super Bowl to country music to Danny Bonaducci. It's a great discussion. Thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. Today we have an epic 2-hour conversation with Rich Banks, who's the music man on the Adam Carolla Show, and also gives music to programs such as the Dave Damashek football program, and was featured heavily on Daves of Thunder. So do check it out. We talk everything from Danny Bonaducci to country music to rock music, MMA, football, all sorts of stuff is brought up. And there is not a stone left unturned after the 2 hours is up. So please stay tuned to that. But before we get into the meat of it, I'd like to bring up my sponsors. First off, we have Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue. It's Westmont, Illinois' finest restaurant. By far, it's award-winning barbecue that has been in town for 14-plus years. And they're just getting started. And they do the real deal barbecue, have smokers in the back of the restaurant. Delicious hickory smoked barbecue at all times, 7 days a week. You can dine in, carry out, but also one thing that not a lot of people know about is that they are a full service catering company as well, which means they can totally handle everything about the food with like a party, a private party, or a wedding, or a corporate event, or a corporate lunch. They can take care of it all for you and bring over anything you need. They do deliveries. They do on-site pig carvings, which is a very fun thing to do in the summer. If you're having a get-together, there's nothing like smelling the pig cooking, you know, while you're having a party in your backyard. And, yeah, they have a bunch of different smokers that they can bring out on-site. They have a bunch of different grills, too. Like I said, full-service catering at its finest. That's Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue. And on the internet, you can check them out. I do believe they're getting a new website up together, but that is UncleBubs.com. You can also check out the Facebook group and give them a like. They always are posting specials and like little special events, stuff that you should want to know if you're in town and go to the restaurant a lot. Sign up for a rewards card, too. You get a point for every dollar you spend. That's good if you want to earn your way towards coupons and whatnot. You can sign up on the website or in the restaurant. And, yeah, give them a call if you have any questions or if you're interested in booking a catering event. The number is 630-493-9000. And mention the Andy Dare Show for special offers and savings. And by Secondhand Mall. It's Westmont, Illinois. Again, I'm keeping all my sponsors local. The Andy Dare Show will not be made in China. It is made in Westmont, Illinois by proud Americans. And Secondhand Mall is a great shop. It is pretty much almost like a pawn shop. They don't give out money, though. They don't give out loans. This is more of a secondhand shop, but it also merged with my record store last year and bought out a lot of their unsold inventory. So I like to feel like it's a little bit like my old record store mixed in with a secondhand shop. So that is Secondhand Mall. They buy, sell, trade. They're a bunch of good guys. It's a very relaxed atmosphere. I miss those days when you could just hang out at a store, and this seems like that could actually carry the torch for that old memory of hanging out in a store with people that are friendly, you know. So check that out. That's Secondhand Mall. It's 309 West Ogden Avenue in Westmont, Illinois. The number is 630-810-9980. Give them a call if you are interested in selling something or if you have any questions at all. And you can look them up on the internet at secondhandmall.com. That's 2ndhandmall.com. And you can support our show by supporting our sponsors. Just mention the Andy Dare Force for special savings. All right, now that I got that out of the way, I'd just like to thank everybody who's purchased a year one, the complete Andy Dare Show USB drive. It's 30-plus hours of me yapping with great guests, great episodes. I believe 32 complete episodes, complete with liner notes as well, giving, the information about each episode. So do check it out. It's the complete Andy Dare Show USB drive. and you can buy it. Just give me a message on Facebook or Twitter, or you can send an email to andrewmartindare@gmail.com. And that's $5 for followers on Twitter or likers of the Facebook page, and $10 for anybody else. We can do it free shipping, and it'll be at your house within 3 days. So check that out. That's the complete Andy Dare Show USB drive. All right, without further ado, I would like to present to you my epic 2-hour conversation with Rich Banks. Thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 37, and I'm so blessed to be joined via Skype by Rich Banks. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Been up for a whole 30 minutes. Feeling great.
Yeah, to fill my listeners in, it is Super Bowl Sunday morning, and what you got some plans for the game, or you hosting a little get together?
I'm supposed to go to a party, but I'm probably going to hang out with the new kid and the wife and just watch it at home. I don't have a dog in this fight. I could care less who wins this year. So I'm a big Bears fan, as you can see. So
nice.
I'm probably not. I think we're both from Illinois, right?
Yeah, we sure are. Where are you from, as far as Illinois?
The very southern, Evansville, Indiana. On the Indiana side, I'm across the river, or I used to be. I grew up there in a town called Mount Carmel. Really small, like 8,000 people.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it, though. Yeah, definitely. That's right. Pretty much in the sticks, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Cornfields. I mean, it's...
How about good barbecue there? Or?
In Mount Carmel?
No, not quite. No.
I think there's a place there called Hog Heaven. I think it's good barbecue, but other than that, no. I think that's the only sit-down restaurant in the town, to be honest with you, so...
Wow. Yeah, how you think that Madonna halftime show is going to be any good, or you think she's just too old to keep playing?
You know, it's not age for me, it's the genre of music. I mean, do you realize I know that Super Bowl Sunday is a family get-together kind of thing, and a lot of families watch and all that stuff, but to be honest, I mean, have we had any real... I mean, they had, the Who up there and, past their prime and stuff. But to be honest, I mean, you know what I'd like to see on Super Bowl Sunday? I'm tired of, Britney Spears getting together with, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. It's awful, right? I'd like to see, like, a reveal. Like, I'd like them to go with like a reveal, like, this Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to reveal, the real shooter in the JFK attack, something fun, something exciting. Now, I could care less about the halftime show. I never watch it. I'm always bored with it. The Black Eyed Peas, whatever. I mean, I realize what they're doing. I mean, the real football fans watch the game. Halftime, they're getting another beer, doing whatever they're doing. And then during that period of time, the family,
sure.
The kids, the wife, whatever, they're checking out the musical act. So I get it, but not a fan. I'd rather see, I kind of like to see AC/DC get up there and do something, or hey, how about the Black Keys? Let's get them up there. And
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I think Tom Petty still brought the rock when he played, and
yep.
I definitely remember that Janet Jackson appearance. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of the halftime show, so whatever. Like I said, I don't watch it usually, so it's not for me anyway. I realize that, but I'd like them to bring something interesting. Maybe a talent show or something. Maybe have just a ridiculous talent show during the halftime. I mean, every show is a talent show anyway, right? I mean, we've got American Idol and America's Got Talent and
pretty
so
much,
on.
yeah.
So, yeah, so why not do that?
Yeah, and you say you're a Bears fan. You think Cutler's ever going to make it through a full season just being great, or you think he always going to peter out,
I think Cutler is physically as talented as anyone, mentally maybe one of the weaker guys in the league. I mean, that's just that's my feeling on the guy. I think some guys, like you look at Roethlisberger, you could break one of his legs and he could have like a bone hanging out of his leg and he would come out there and drag his stump out and play. Unfortunately, I don't think Cutler has that in his head. So I think he's too worried about his hair or whatever, during the games. So, I think some guys just aren't mentally tough, so we'll see. But yeah, the Bears are very frustrating. They've always, to me, been a team when they are good, except for '85, that can just get to the playoffs, get you excited, and then sorry,
Then
we
peter
can't make
out. Yeah.
yeah can't make it all the way. I mean, I know they played. I know they got to the bowl with the Colts, but wow, that's a whole other situation there with Manning. But anyway, so I know it's not a sports show. I'm not.
Oh
not
no, I'm
trying to
totally a sports fan though. Yeah, and I get,
Okay.
I like talking about music. Obviously, that's my main forte. But yeah, I like to cover all the bases. So
Sure.
yeah, and you're pretty much in charge or responsible for the music beds and all the musical parodies for a lot of the Ace Broadcasting stuff, a lot of the Dave Damashek stuff. How'd you get to meet Corolla, and how'd you get this ball rolling as far as working with him with the music?
You know, I'd been listening to Stern forever, Howard Stern for I don't know, 93, 94, whatever. I actually saw Howard Stern before I listened to it. My parents had a satellite dish, the old big dishes, the
Sure.
huge giant ones, and rural Illinois, and I was living in Nashville. I was doing vocal demos and stuff down there and running, or not running a studio, but I was working in a studio after I got out of school. And so I was working down there, and I'd come home on the weekends. It seemed like everybody back there around that age of like early 20s, they were getting married, and doing all that stuff, small town stuff, people getting married on the weekend. So I'm coming home for a party basically every weekend to go to a reception, hang out, and then go back to work during the week. And I started seeing this show on Saturdays. It was Howard Stern, and he was doing this channel 9, I think it was, out of New York, and I'd never heard the radio show. I'd seen him on Letterman. Anyway, long story. I started, and I became a huge fan, and then over the years I got his radio show. I listened to that. Then he went to Sirius and all that. Well, when he went to Sirius in 2006, I heard Corolla was going to take over, and I was a Corolla fan. I liked the Man Show. I thought him and Kimmel were funny,
Sure.
and that sounded like a pretty good replacement. I heard Roth was doing it in New York, David Lee Roth. I was like, wow, that's, look, old Van Halen's cool, but come on. I mean, what are we doing putting David Lee Roth on, the biggest radio guy in history, and you're replacing him with a front man from an,
Who's
from
got issues? Yeah, mental problems, pretty much.
yeah, exactly. A guy who can't stop doing that thing with his head. I don't know what that thing is Roth does.
The rooster.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so Corolla was going to take over, and I'd always wanted to kind of get involved in radio. And I wanted to be on the air kind of and do stuff like that, but, I was in my mid-30s, you're like 34, 35, you're like, yeah, there's no way I'm doing, I'm not going to jump into radio at this point. And but I thought I could do song parodies, and I could get into doing, production for the show maybe. And so first week of the show, I listened to it, got a feel for the characters on the show. Like first season was, or the first year was, Damashek was on there. They had Rachel Perry doing the news. That turned out to be a disaster, but they had, but they had, Big Tad, Tad Newcomb was on there, and he was kind of the flunky on the show, I guess, if you want to say that. Not to put you down, Tad, if you're watching this, but he's a good guy. But anyway, so they put him on there, and it worked out. And I listened to it for a week or two, and then I just wrote a bunch of parodies and sent them in. And Jimmy Bruska, the producer, I get a message I'm out to eat. I come home, and there's a message on my machine going, "Hey, we got your songs, hey, blah blah blah," And I'm like, wow, they're gonna play the stuff. And
Nice.
He said we may call you Monday, and then. Basically, we worked out a little bit of a deal, and the rest was history. I did that show for 22 months, and before Mike Dawson, the voiceover of the show, or voice guy for the show, before he started, I was doing everything. I mean, I was doing all that, not the production so much, but all the promos. Like if they would do an appearance, I'd have to do a song for it or whatever. So, and then when he came along, the show really smoothed out because they were able to have a guy who could cut stuff together really well, who could do a voiceover on top of music, on top of whatever. And it started evening out, and I think it got better and better. And so that's how I got involved with that, and that's how I met Damashek through that show in '06. So
That's very awesome. Do you remember any of the first parodies that you had aired on the show?
Yeah. I did, the first song I did was Big Tad. And because, look, overweight guy on the show, easy to poke fun at. So it was Oh man, sorry, I just woke up. It was Tom T. Hall, I think. Big John, this old song from like the '60s, I think that's when that song came out. And it was a really easy song because the guy kind of talked in it, and he kind of set up the verse, set up the chorus with a kind of a little montage of talking about this guy, like, he stood 6 feet tall and he was blah blah blah. So it was easy for me to say he's a flunky and he's fat and whatever,
Yeah.
and then instead of Big John it was Big Tad. So that was the first parody. And luckily, Corolla thought that was a hilarious song anyway, so that worked out. And gosh, I don't know. I made fun of everyone on the first week of songs. I don't remember how many they played, but yeah. So that was the first tune they played on the show, and then they would take as much as I would produce, and I was cranking out. I mean, I was doing a full schedule of television stuff, and I was still cranking out 8 or 10 a week, and yeah, it was nuts. So I think they played in total 230 or 235 songs, not just plays, but songs, during 22 months of me being on there. So,
Jeez.
yeah, and then of course, Bonaducci came on the second year, replaced Damashek. Only man ever replaced by Danny Bonaducci, Dave Damashek.
That's good. Did,
so-
did, did he have a song for him, or?
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff for him. That's what I'm saying. He was easy because the drug stuff in the background, or in his past, him fighting with a tranny and all that junk that
Sure.
happened to Bonaducci, and a lot of his stuff, let's be honest, was fabricated. Not that stuff that's documented, but he'd come to work and be like, "Yeah, man, I wrecked my motorcycle this morning. I spilled it on." And it's like he doesn't have a scratch on him, but he would say he was late because he turned his bike over or whatever. So
Just reeking of Axe body spray and cigarettes, right? Yeah.
exactly. Oh, and and that's not a lie. I stood in an alley with that guy, at the Key Club. I don't know if you're familiar with that club
Sure.
in
Hollywood, right?
Hollywood. Yeah, and he yeah, you can go see the Bullet Boys there once in a while if you want to go watch a early '90s act. I think they still play there, and a lot of acts come through there anyway. But they were doing a Bonaducci bachelor party. I'm putting that in quotes. It wasn't obviously a bachelor party, but they were doing this thing. So they had strippers there and the whole deal. And with Bonaducci, he was out. He has to change his clothes all the time because he's so hyped up and he's drinking energy drinks and he's just revved up, And
Sure.
he's like a bodybuilder that's doing reps in between pose downs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's one of those guys. So he carries a backpack or a duffel bag with him everywhere, and the entire time he's spraying himself down with Axe, and he's going out into the alley, and I'm hanging out in the alley with a bunch of different guys, and we're having a couple drinks, and I'm just hanging out there. I got the ticket to go because obviously I do stuff for the show, and it's a good time to hang out. So I was just hanging out, and he's back there changing, and so unfortunately you're seeing Danny Bonaducci naked. You're seeing Danny Bonaducci run around in his underwear, with his cowboy boots still on. He has a little bit of a height issue, so he wears boots a lot. But yeah, anyway, so that was that was kind of crazy. Super nice guy, but yeah, he's about 50% real Danny and 50% whatever on the air, made up stuff. So
Yeah, at least he's a character you'll probably never ever forget,
No, never forget that. Especially the naked parts. That was fun, exciting.
How about like early inspirations as far as beginning to pick up the guitar, beginning to like create your own productions, make your own music? Like, did you have bands growing up, or was this just a thing that you kind of like a happy accident you fell into?
Wow. Yeah, what's weird is you probably know. How old are you, Andy?
I'm 28.
Okay, so you're quite a bit younger than I am. I'm past the 40 mark now. I have my 40th birthday and then creeped over that. So, but when I was, I grew up. My dad. Where do I start with this? My dad. I'll try to shorten it. I'm long-winded. My dad. He basically had a great voice. Always has had a great voice. My dad's in his 70s now. He can still wail. I mean, he can still sing.
Okay.
Did an album 2 years ago. But anyway, so I grew up with him, playing music and stuff. When I was growing up, he was into country music, and he was doing, he was doing a lot of covers and playing in bands and stuff like that. He had a full-time job. He actually did an album back then when I was a kid, when I was really young, like in the '80s and stuff. But you know, he had a family to raise, so he really wasn't pursuing it full time. But when he was younger, when he was in his 20s, he had a deal with and I hate that I forgot the name of the label. It doesn't exist anymore. But he had a deal,
Awesome.
and he did a song called "Dirty Dog." And if you go on YouTube and you type in Dick Banks, not Rich Banks, but Dick Banks, and you type in the song "Dirty Dog," you'll find his song on there. And
Cool.
it's kind of funny, and it's funny to listen to. It's kind of an Elvis hybrid, you know. Everything in the '50s kind of had that flair to it. And he did the American Bandstand with Dick Clark back then, and
Wow.
he toured with the album and you know or the record, and he had a B-side called "Too Late." And anyway, so a little bit of success, and then he kind of fell out of the business. He got tired of it and just kind of walked away from it on his own, and really wanted to do country music anyway, not rock. So that was his background. And then of course I grew up hearing him sing all the time, and really didn't hear rock music, and I mean this, made past 1959, or country music made past the '70s, until I was in 7th or 8th grade.
Really? Huh.
And the first rock music I heard was like, and it was a really weird time, was like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and AC/DC and all these metal bands. And, you know, I wasn't into it that much, but I was such, you know, you're rebelling at that age, and I wanted to get away from what I grew up with. And so I was just running from country and 50s rock, and I ran straight into the arms of Bruce Dickinson or whoever, you know, at the time, you know, the singer of Maiden. And I got into that for about 3 or 4 years. And so I was kind of a metalhead for a while, and I played in some metal bands and did all that stuff. And I could play, you know, the guitar and bass and drums and sing and stuff by the time I was around 12. And I had a piano in the house and never took any lessons. Big regret, because I have to do it now all the time, and I'm bad. I'm not good at all. I can make my way through it, but I would never play live on the piano. So anyway, that was my background. And yeah, I played in bands in high school, and then got out of high school and went to Full Sail University in Florida and took some recording engineering and music production. And I just kind of in music business, wanted to learn how to do it on my own. And technology finally caught up with what I wanted to do. You know, I played in bands up until I was about 26. And then I left the last band I was with, and we were playing all the time. And I just felt like, look, the live thing isn't for me. I really want to get involved doing all these different styles, get music on television, do production for people, write songs for people. And that's the road I went. And then I got into television music in the late 90s. And then when the internet was able to catch up, and computer technology was able to catch up with kind of what I wanted to do, it really took off then. I was able to get a lot of publishing deals and get stuff played all over the place, and get a lot of stuff played on cable and network television, and you know, make a living from it, and a pretty good living for a long time. And
It's got to be a way better payday than playing shows, right? Or
you know, I remember standing on stage in front of about 350 people, you know, in a club, and I was about 26, and I'm standing in front of you know, and back then I had hair down to my chest, and, you know, and we were playing, you know, this is 96, whatever, and I'm playing 97, 96, and I'm playing in front of all these people in the club, and it was a guitar break in the song, and I remember just staring at the crowd thinking, wow, I'd rather be doing anything but this right now. You know, I mean, seriously, I was just bored with it, and that's not what you need. I mean, the guys that were in the band with me at the time, one guy's in a band called L1011 out in L.A. They're a two-piece instrumental band. They're amazing. They've been playing for a long time. His name's Tim Fogarty. He's the drummer. Then Ed Skiro, the guitar player, he's still based out of Pittsburgh, but he's played with Paul Di'Anno's band, the old singer from Iron Maiden. He's played with a bunch of different, you know, acts and toured, and he's a working musician. They both make their living completely with music. And if you want to go back even farther, a guy we used to jam with that was Ed Skiro's friend from back in the day is Ray Luzier, the drummer for Korn now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he played with Roth to bring the David Lee Roth back around. He keeps coming up, but anyway, he played with him for a long time. Played in a ton of bands, did a bunch of studio stuff. works with, all the great guitar player, bass player, Billy Sheehan, guys like that, works on their albums.
Cool.
And yeah, Ray, back in the day, I remember hanging out with those two guys. I went to MIT for a while in California, in Hollywood, the Musicians Institute, which is a lot better than it was back then. Back then it was cool, but it was, I went to the Vocal Institute, which was a waste of time. I could sing. I didn't need that. I should have taken the guitar or something else, because really I got in there and realized, oh, that's right, I can already sing. What am I doing in this school? But I got some live performing experience, which was cool. So
yeah, I've had that same empty feeling playing like small stages with bands, and the same thing going to college. I went to Columbia College in Chicago, and they tell you, first thing you got to do is just go out there and do it. Then I say, well, why am I paying these loads and loads of money when I could just be going out and doing it? But
It's what it is. It really is about just doing it. People ask me that all the time, like, how do I get started? And I'm like, just start. It's like stand-up comedy. Go find an open mic night. Go do some stuff in front of a crowd. You'll find out two things right away. One, if you really, really want to do it. And number two, you'll find out if you're probably going to be any good or not. You may suck the first time, but, you have a feeling. You'll know deep down inside, like, I can make this happen, and so. You're
going to get feedback one way or the other. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
How about like playing these shows or like having the bands? Were you all the way back in Mount Carmel at this point? And did you ever travel up to Chicago and play the clubs up in the city?
No, when I lived in Mount Carmel, I did play in some bands. Not the best bands ever. They were, there's only so many musicians in a town of 8,000 people. So the band's going to be whatever the band's going to be. And stuff like that. So starting at 15, I started playing in bands, and then when I got my driver's license, I was able to travel a little more and play clubs, or not clubs so much, but a lot of live gigs, like in people's houses, basements, playing. I remember New Year's Eve, we played probably 35 people at somebody's house. Cool. One year. I was like 16 years old, but it was cool when you're 16. You're like, oh, it's awesome, it's a party. But then, but yeah, I left Mount Carmel when I was 18 and went to LA, and then I went to Florida, and I made trips back and forth when I was living in Nashville, but never really stayed there after 18. So only the high school experience, playing music and stuff. So never really traveled and did any of that. Didn't play St. Louis, didn't play Chicago, none of that stuff. I think played Evansville a few times. I mean, that was the extent of that, but, didn't really start doing any bigger dates until, LA, then Florida a little bit, and then Nashville, and then lived in Pittsburgh for a year and a half. That was actually the best band I was ever in. That was the band with the guys I was telling you about before, with Ed and Tim Fogarty. So, yeah, that never really got to Chicago, but went up there for a few trips. But people forget, they think Chicago is all of Illinois, and pretty much it is. But if you grow up in the southern part of Illinois, I mean, honestly, you're closer to St. Louis,
Nashville too. Yeah,
Nashville. You're 3.5 hours. You're in the South. I still have an accent, not as bad as I did at one time. I used to have. I mean, I listen to myself on video, like VHS tapes from video of when I was a kid, and I'm like 12 years old, and I'm like, hey, everybody, I sound pretty. I have an accent, so yeah, it's in the South. I mean, you're an hour from Kentucky, 3.5 hours from Nashville. So.
And how about your dad? Is he still there, or where's he at now?
Yeah, he's in Illinois, and he moved back there. Gosh, I don't know how many years ago now. Lived in Arizona for quite a while, and then decided to go back there. His mom was not doing that well, and he missed his friends and kind of the whole deal, so he ended up back there. But played a live show a couple years ago in his mid-70s, and didn't miss a note. Still has a great. I hope my voice holds up like that.
Yeah, really.
That's one of those. That's one of those things that you never know what's going to happen with your voice. I mean, my voice has never been stronger, I feel now, but you never know what 10 years, 20 years is going to do. I'm not in clubs every night beating it up either, and I think that's.
You're not a smoker, right?
Don't smoke, yeah. No smoking, but yeah, I think you can sing. I think it's like a lot of things genetic. I think that's probably his gift, is having that genetic that voice that stands the test of time. So he said his upper register is a little weaker than it used to be, but I mean, the guy's in his later 70s now, so But yeah, he just did a country album two years ago. He went down to Nashville with a buddy of his and knocked out an album. Brought in top level guys and a buddy of his who writes and been a writer down there for years. And they brought together an album. So pretty cool. I mean, to be able to do that still is pretty neat. And that's kind of something he just wanted to, like, look, I'm not going to do it forever, obviously. I want to get this one last thing out and do some music I really want to do. And it sounds like a country album that was made in 1978. I mean, the sound is modern, but the style is more like that old, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash stuff. Which
that's my style, kind of, pretty much.
Yeah. I like that stuff.
Did you get a chance to hear the new Glenn Campbell album?
I haven't. I've seen a lot of his appearances and stuff like that. Great guitar player, great musician. I've just seen a few appearances of his. A little sad, but I give it to him for finding out, having a diagnosis like that at his age, and be like, look, I got to go out and kind of say farewell to the fans and everything. But I haven't heard the album. I haven't done that.
Yeah, exactly. And it was pretty cool because he picked some like younger guys to work with. Like he had Billy Corgan playing guitar, a Chicago guy. He had like the guy from the Replacements, Paul Westerberg, on there. Yeah. Guy from Guided by Voices, Robert Pollard. So I mean, I'm sure it had something to do with the record label trying to get some younger guys in there to spruce up his sound a little bit. But I think that's pretty cool, pretty hip in his 70s too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Glenn Campbell to me. He was always underrated. When I was a kid, like I kind of picked up on him. When I was a kid, I thought Roy Orbison was great, and I mean, these are guys that were, they were kind of past their prime when I was a kid. I mean, they'd kind of done their thing and been huge, and then when I was a kid, they were kind of these older. They weren't old, but everybody's old when you're a kid. But they weren't the going thing at the time. Sure. Country music had fallen into Kenny Rogers and more of a pop sound, hybrid kind of music when I was a kid in the 80s. And then, then the 90s rolled around and my 20s rolled around and, it was Garth Brooks and all that stuff. And I wasn't a huge fan of that style either that much. And maybe because I grew up with my dad playing those actual records around the house a lot. And I still kind of dig that sound of the 70s, that country sound. I think that was country's prime. I think that hard edged, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, all those guys, the Highwaymen, basically.
Highwaymen were great, yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know if you've watched all that stuff, but that's
sure.
It's a lot of fun to watch. So people are always surprised at my musical taste, but they run the gamut. One of my favorite albums is Jeff Buckley's Grace album.
Sure.
and I really like Muse, and there's people that are diehard Jeff Buckley fans that are like, how can you like Muse? Aren't they a Jeff Buckley ripoff? And I'm like, why? Because the guy sings with
good.
Yeah, because he has a great voice. I mean, I don't know. But I'm not and I don't like to use this term because I am in so many ways and in a lot of other things. Like I like MMA and I like golf and I like NFL football and I like F1 car racing. I'm not your usual sports fan. I don't like hockey, basketball, football, and baseball. I do watch NFL football, but I spend a lot of time watching MMA and have forever. And I like F1 car racing and golf, which is, I know, the most boring sport in the world to people. And I'm a nerd with some of that stuff. Like I'm super, super into it. But I think since I do music for a living, I'm not good. Like, people will go, you remember okay. And they'll talk about a Zeppelin album. They'll be like, track 4. And they'll start going off on, this and that. And I'm like, I don't know which song you're talking about. Which one is that again? I'm not that good with that. And you can sit around with Corolla or you can sit around with Damashek and they will literally beat me in the ground with their knowledge of that stuff. I'm not good, and they think that I'm supposed to know it, but just because I do it, I'm not.
It's more of an appreciation than a nerding out on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just when I'm done with music, and I don't want to say that I just do it for money because that's not true. I do appreciate it, and I do listen to music a lot, but it's very specific. Like a lot of my friends, they can just throw on something and have it in the car for a week and whatever. I over-examine it so much that I almost drive myself crazy with it. If I hear something on there that I don't like, or why would they do that, or that mix, what's up with that? Why did they bury the bass in that song or whatever? I'll think about it nonstop, and I think that's just because I do it for a living, and you kind of get a little too into it, and so I have to kind of remove myself from it, and I think that's why I haven't sat and looked at the liner notes and read that kind of stuff since I was a kid, really. When it wasn't a living, it was just a passion.
That goes back to like the hypervigilance that Corolla deals with, right? You hear one little thing out of the mix and you can't listen to the album, right?
Yeah, his is crazy because he can literally just be sitting and there can be a noise 4 blocks away and his eyes will go that way, So he's like that with everything. I'm not like that with everything. I mean, I have a 6-month-old child now too. That's why my eyes are I have huge dark circles. I look like I've been in an MMA fight at this point. So I used to have that a little bit, but man, after you have a 6-month-old and the crying and whatever else, you're like, whatever. I mean, certain sounds just don't bother me anymore. I can literally like eat dinner and, the Backyardigans are on. And I know all their songs, by the way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. What a great gig. God, who gets to do that stuff? Like, I've got to talk to an agent about that because, I've been trying to expand a little bit and get into more post-production and maybe some composing,
sure,
which I haven't done in the past. And I'm looking for a new agent at this point, and I'm going to maybe start pitching that stuff a little more. But yeah, God, what a great gig. I mean, the Backyardigans, you listen to it, and there's like an orchestra back there. I mean, it's a real band. You can tell. It's not just some guy on a keyboard. And it's I mean, except for the lyrics, which are ridiculous, the music's pretty sophisticated. And I'm like, wow, that would be kind of fun. The money's great. These things go into DVDs and sell like crazy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
What a great gig. Because I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, with the economy the way it is, I've taken up a lot of gigs that I hadn't done in a while, just because they were offered to me. There's a lot of competition. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll mess with that. So you end up doing commercials and things like that you hadn't done in a while, and a lot of voiceovers and stuff too that I hadn't done in a while. But I do a lot of voiceovers, and I have for quite a while. That was a gig I never thought I'd get into. It just guy sent me some production one time and said, can you do your voice? Can you put your voice on it? And I said, I'm not a voiceover guy. He goes, yeah, but you could do it. Just read the line. And I'm like, okay. So I read the line. He said, yeah, it's perfect. Great. And he gave me $200 extra for the gig. And I was like, all right, well, maybe I should pursue this a little bit. So I auditioned for a few things and I did, well, this is being part of the problem, by the way, not part of the solution. I did Paula Abdul's Greatest Hits commercial. I did the voiceover for that. Yeah, that was 97. I think I did that.
Oh.
Yeah, I did one take, and the guy's like, "Awesome." He goes, "What's your address? Let's get let's get you set up here." I was like, "That's it?" He's like, "Yeah, I loved it. It's fantastic." Oh, okay. And so I found out it was some easy extra money on the side, so I started doing that as well. But so do you play? In a band? Do you I know you're, a super knowledgeable guy musically and stuff like that, but do you compose or anything, or do you write?
Yeah, I had bands growing up probably since age 11. My dad had a band. He played saxophone for some blues bands in Chicago, and pretty much grew up with the music, grew up with an actual like Wurlitzer jukebox playing 45s. And I also grew up in a record store called Remember When Records, and was taken there, in a stroller. Slowly grew up through it, and got a job after high school, kind of said goodbye to education and just kind of spent my time hanging out in a record store. It's kind of weird because it's something that's more prevalent in generations before mine. But
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, like I just learned so much, soaked it all up like a sponge, and had bands, played around, and just got kind of sick of the grind, going on Craigslist. We need a new singer. We're fighting about this. We're doing that. This guy doesn't want to play that song, So basically, I just figured out I could just talk and kibitz about music, had more fun doing that, and just found it kind of pretty easy getting all these guests together because, I just have mutual respect for all these people, and they had fun talking with me. So, yeah, it's been about a year doing this. And, my record store just closed its doors last year after 28 years.
Sad.
So, but it's kind of cool. A secondhand mall that was 2 doors down actually bought out all the inventory. So, yeah, I called in to For Crying Out Loud and talked to Lynette and Allison about it. It's kind of cool because now it's like a record store, but you got like crackheads bringing in stereos and stuff. So it's kind of even more interesting now. So they're a sponsor on the show. They're giving me a discount. I just read out their info. And, yeah, my other sponsor is my a barbecue restaurant I've been working at for 4 years, Uncle Bub's Barbecue. And, yeah, I've got a real passion for barbecue. Love doing grilling, stuff like that. Talking to Mangreat to try to get a sponsorship through them too. So it's just basically I took the two things I love and I'm trying to have them help out with getting the show out there, a little bit. So
that's awesome, man. And what's great about the internet now and what's great about technology, you know how hard it would be to do this 15 years ago. Forget it. You couldn't do it. I would have to live in LA, number one, no matter what. And who knows, I may end up back in LA again. I've lived there 3 times now. So, but it's so expensive. It's insane. LA is, you see the money you make and you go, okay, this is how far it's going to go in California. This is how far it's going to go somewhere else. So it's a lifestyle thing. And with me, it's not a necessity. So I can fly out there. I can be there in an hour and I can do gigs. And, if I have to take a bunch of equipment, I can drive out there in 7 hours. So it's not a huge problem. But most of the stuff I can use an FTP site and do all that. But anyway, the fact that you have an idea and you can do it now is great. And you know what? If your show's good, what yours is, and if people enjoy it and you're bringing a good product to them, it's going to be successful. I mean, Corolla already had, a base, but look how it's grown though. He's really grown the show. And he doesn't have to depend on a network. He doesn't have to deal with all the garbage because there is a lot of garbage in that town, man. The meetings you go to and what actually gets done is absolutely amazing. It really is. When Damashek and I got the ESPN show, it was like, well, this is good. It was like we did this meeting and it was basically they said, hey, it's exactly what we're looking for. This is where the direction we want to go. And we were on the air 6 months. I mean, we gave them what they were looking for, but it really wasn't what they were looking for. They ended up going back to what they had, for the 5 years previous to us. I mean, they wanted to redo the afternoon show, the drive time show.
Sure.
So I was the one-man house band. Dave was doing his thing. I was laughing it up like Ed McMahon on the other side, playing sound effects, playing live music in the studio. And we were drive time LA. And then 6 months later, we were off, and we had contracts, so they had to have us do something, and they had me do full-time production, and Damashek had a podcast, and he did that for 2 years, and then he moved on to, he did a podcast over at Corolla for a while, and then got the NFL deal, and that's going really well with the Shane Report now being on the NFL channel, not just the NFL.com and his podcast. So but it's great that there's that outlet now. People can do podcasts, people can do Skype shows, whatever they want, and you can grab sponsors and make a living and have a real business and put your vision out there instead of taking your vision to a company and saying, this is my vision, and then them putting it through their filter.
Exactly.
And it coming out with who knows. Because really, with your show, if you were working for a company, they would tell you what guests you can have. We don't like that. You need to cut that out. Whatever it is. And maybe that's stuff, quirkiness or whatever in your show that people like. That might be the thing that they actually like that they're removing. They homogenize everything. So I think it's great, man. I mean, good for you. I love it. I every time I see something new pop up that's cool like what you're doing, I'm into it. I love the fact that I've been making a living from my house for a long time. And the fact, you know what I mean? And the fact that people can do that now. I mean, look at the Corolla show. Look, it's a lot of work that goes in over there, but those guys, it's a lot of work, but yet, look, they're doing it out of a warehouse. They're building new studios now. They've got sponsors. They're bringing money in. His road shows are selling out all over the place. I mean, that's amazing. And look at Damashek with a podcast. I mean, he's definitely a radio guy. He's built for that. But it's hard to stay in radio. Radio is so in the toilet. It really is. And with him being able to do a podcast, it's great. So, yeah, man, I think that's awesome. I'm happy for you. I think it's going really well. Hopefully, I'm not going to run it and throw it in the
Oh, hell no, you're not ruining it at all. No,
today. But yeah, so, but yeah, I'm excited. I've got a couple ideas for my website at this point. I'm thinking about doing a couple things. I'm not going to do a podcast. Everyone wants me to do a podcast, but I keep telling them, like, what am I going to talk about? F1, car racing, and MMA in the same podcast? Like, sports cannot be a part of it. People think because I'm affiliated with Damashek that I'm this big, I'm super knowledgeable about college sports or whatever. And I don't watch college sports. I watch NFL football. Like I said, MMA, F1, car racing, and golf. You can't bring those together on a podcast. There is no one out there that's going to go, you know what this guy has? He has a golf podcast. He also talks about MMA.
He does it all.
No one cares. No one cares about that stuff. So I could talk about music, but like I said, you're doing that, and you're way better than I would be at that. So I think I'm going to start doing cover songs once a week. I don't know if you heard the Cherry Pie tribute thing we did on Corolla.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. People went crazy for that thing. I just thought it was going to be a bit, like it was. And I mean, I knocked that out in a couple seconds. And
it's so emotional.
Right, exactly. And it's funny when you're reading those lyrics and singing with that much emotion. It's almost hard to do without laughing halfway through. But anyway, that song, people went crazy for it. And I think they're going to release it at some point and make it available for people. But it's crazy. I've gotten hundreds of emails, hundreds of messages through my website. It's absolutely crazy. I probably get 1,000 people to my website a day, and I would say a third of those people are sending me a message saying, hey, how can I get the Cherry Pie thing? That Cherry Pie thing's great. How can I get a clean version of it? So it gave me an idea. People have wanted me to post music for a long time, so I thought I'll post these on Twitter to promote it. I need to get more Twitter followers anyway, and I need to start doing something because I keep getting these requests, and I have this website, and it's like I have these people visiting, and I'm not giving them anything. They're just reading the same stuff every day and looking at the same tweet that I did last month, So I thought, okay, I'll start doing covers, but not covers of songs that you already like or songs that you would expect me to do. Like, I'm not going to go do a song that is already done well. I'm going to do something that I don't love. Like Cherry Pie is not a song I like, okay? I don't like the song. But the version I did of it, not that I think it's awesome, but it's more interesting in my mind to do it that way instead of, like, if I got a guitar out and redid, Cherry Pie the same way that Warrant did it, it would just be ridiculous.
There'd be no point,
so, what's the point? Or even if I did the same version but just acoustically, like, really? I mean, what's that? So I thought, maybe take a bunch of songs like that. Not exactly hair metal, but just songs that people would go, that's what that song is? Like, it'll take you maybe 3 or 4 lines to go, I think I know what song this is. And I think I'll do that every week. I'll pick one thing and do it acoustically, piano or guitar, probably guitar. Piano's a little embarrassing. And do it every week. And then maybe every 2 months or every month, I'll put up an original tune. But I think I'll do a cover every week of something that's unexpected, that it might take you even to the chorus to go, oh, it's that song. I didn't know that. So I have a couple in mind already that I've been tooling around with. I think that'll be kind of fun. I was running the idea across a couple of friends of mine, and they're like, absolutely. They were like, I had no idea it was that song.
Sure.
So I'll go that direction, and maybe I'll be a little bit like a bar musician where I'll take requests on the website, and I'm going to try to make it more interactive. I'm either going to put up some kind of message board or some kind of comment section, and I have a YouTube page, so maybe I'll start using it instead of, I have a promo on there that I've had forever that I don't do anything with. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll start posting stuff on there and start getting involved with people that are reaching out to me a little more. So, and hopefully, your show will help that too. I think you're picking up viewers all the time. So
yeah, like Twitter's so easy for me because it's just like you can easily write one sentence. I don't care how famous you are. It's just like you can get anybody to respond to you. I mean, I've even got Frank Stallone talking back and forth, giving me relationship advice,
Wow.
So.
Oh, that's awesome. Have you had him on? Because I haven't seen that.
No, I would like to have him on. We're in talks about it now, but I think he'd be pretty cool to have on,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a great, he was a great guest on Corolla. I thought he was I thought he was awesome. Him doing him doing his brother's voice and going to that whole Sly thing, and that was awesome. He was a good guest, and he's a musician. I mean, he look at his past with music and everything. So pretty cool. That would be probably be a pretty great guest to have on. Great promotion and stuff like that. So, but yeah, things are going pretty well, I guess. Like I said, I do my music for money, or my music for money, with television and all that stuff. And then the fun things, if it wasn't for Damashek and the Corolla stuff, it would get tedious and sort of boring. I'd probably be looking for another outlet. But the fact that I'm able to do, the goofy parody stuff for them, and whether it's a ridiculous Dr. Spaz intro or whatever it is, I'm never going to sing a Kiss song, but something like that, it's fun and hopefully entertaining. And then for Damashek, I get to do everything with Damashek. I get to do the voiceover and more production type stuff, like the intro song for the Shame Report, which is kind of a takeoff on one of those old 50s cop shows, with all the big horns and stuff like that. So I kind of get to have some fun and get paid a little bit along the way. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Has anybody reached out to you to do anything bigger? A lot of times when you start doing a show, people will say, hey, we have this production company, or we have this. Would you like to get involved? Has anybody reached out to you for that? Or
a little bit, right? Like right now, I'm trying to book guests for Corolla. I'm helping them. I know the producers pretty well. I've had a lot of them on the show, and right now I'm trying to get Jim Peterick. He wrote "Eye of the Tiger," for Survivor. He did. He had Ides of March was his early band. They had Vehicle,
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Corolla brought him up last week. He's, I guess Peterick is suing the Newt Gingrich campaign for the use of "Eye of the Tiger." So, and the guy lives about 5 minutes away from me in Burr Ridge, Illinois. And so we're talking, and I was saying, telling him this would be huge for you, Jim. I mean, I know he's like an aging rocker and all, but I think he could totally win the next generation over if he would just appear on Corolla. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and then they're saying, if you get me on Corolla, I'll do your show, no problem. I'll do a 2-hour episode with you or something. So, I'll do it. So.
Oh, that's awesome. By the way, Eye of the Tiger, really? I mean, that's what you're having, like, that's what you want to come out, and give a speech to. It's such a weird, like, that stuff always makes me laugh. These guys think these songs are going to be, you hear Eye of the Tiger, and then you see a politician. And
a bloated, chubby politician, yeah.
This does not match up, and it's such a weird. They always do that though. They think, oh, it's gonna pump everybody up and stuff, and it doesn't.
I can't picture Newt hitting a heavy bag. No,
he is a heavy bag.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'm not exactly sure what the future holds as far as That's the fun thing about doing those shows, the with Damashek and Corolla, is that you never know what you're going to be doing, and sometimes it's their ideas, and sometimes it's like it was their idea for the cherry pie thing. I never even thought about doing that. It was their idea. It was a very funny angle on it, and then sometimes like the Dr. Spaz thing, that's something that hits me just like, oh, that's right, Dr. Love. Okay, yeah, that falls together. Yeah, exactly. And so you throw that together because there's somebody on the show. Not that everybody needs a theme song, but I felt like they have Dr. Bruce on so much. What the heck, throw a song his way. And plus, he seems a little irritated by it, which makes me even happier. I don't know why. That's kind of mean, but I like it when
it affects somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a guest on that's a little, like, the thing about Bonaducci, we used to write all those songs for him, and he loved it. Like, he thought it was a tribute. Like, we're ripping on him, about it, his freckles and calling him Howdy Doody, but he's like, whatever. He thought it was great. He's like, oh, that's awesome, man. That's great, dude. I love it. It's like, all right, fantastic. So, whatever.
Hey, going back to Damashek for a minute, is he going to continue the football program? You got the Dave Damashek football program. He's going to keep doing that through the off season?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's what the plans are. The last time I talked to the guys over there, they're going to continue along, and they'll just cover every other sport. And there's a lot of news football-wise in the off season also. Lots of stuff going on. So, yeah, they'll continue. I'm sure we'll create some ridiculous stuff, or I will, for the show this coming summer and everything. So, Yeah, I think they'll absolutely continue that. You know, I think he's found his place over there. You know, I felt like his other shows are really good. The ones I was a part of, I was a part of all of them, and to some degree. But I felt like they were good, and I think they had their place, and they were funny and entertaining. But I really feel like he's found his home over there, and I think that podcast works great. And Adam Rank is his sidekick. I think he's a pretty good foe, as well as a punching bag at times. And I think that's what he needs, and I think that works well. And they're entertaining. I think they work well together, and it's a good show. They've had 1 million producers, which is kind of a running thing on the show. It's kind of funny, but in the Shane Report, great idea. I love the new graphics. I'm a little biased with the theme song and stuff like that, but I just played off of the graphic they sent me, which was I loved it. It's just kind of dark, a little funny, but yeah, great. So he's going to continue for sure. I'm almost positive that they're going to continue, and I can see him being with them for a long time and keep working his way up over there. The fact that I don't know if you saw any of the Super Bowl stuff with him or heard any of it this week, but they got some great guests this week. They had Adam Sandler on and Kate Upton, and and obviously every NFL player and past NFL player you'd ever want on there. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then of course Damashek had on Miss America and Kate Upton different days, and they were trying to figure out which woman hated him the most. And I thought that was great. That was perfect. But he's like, which one hated me the most, Rank? And I think they came up with Upton. I think they
just
felt
a little
like
more hate. Yeah.
I tell you what about it's funny when you hear these women and you can't see them like Kate Upton or whatever. It gives you a completely different image in your head, you know. And I thought she sounded happy. I thought she sounded like she was having a blast, but obviously, I haven't watched the video. I listened to the podcast. I had it on my iPod. I didn't really watch it yet, so maybe her look, or maybe it was after the cameras turned off. But obviously, I guess she wasn't thrilled to be there. But well, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I like. I was a huge Dave's of Thunder fan. Does he ever still speak to Dave Feeney?
Oh yeah, those guys are huge friends. They've been friends forever.
Good.
Yeah. Sure, I'm sure they've had many nights out, and Dave's got kids now and stuff. He can't hang out like they used to. They used to close bars down every week. Those guys. But yeah, I'm sure him and Feeney are still hanging quite a bit. I was hoping they would do a reunion show. I thought that would be fun, and maybe they will at some point. Get Pete in there and maybe even bring back a few other people that were on the show at the time. So. I don't know. Maybe they'll end up doing something like that. I'm not sure. I know Dave's schedule is crazy between Kimmel and the NFL Network. It's got to be crazy. I mean, he's constantly driving down the hill from the valley into the city. And if you've ever been in LA much, the traffic is second to none, man. I know Chicago traffic's bad and there's bad traffic all around the country, but LA is just a different place.
Takes the cake. Yeah.
Too many people in that city. It really is. The best time you had driving out there, I have in years, is when the gas prices were crazy. When the gas prices were like $5 a gallon, nobody was on the road. So driving to work, that's when we were on the air, and driving to work, that was the best traffic I had the whole time. But yeah, I think he's pretty busy. But I'd like to see him do a Dave's of Thunder reunion. They had a pretty big fan base.
Yeah, I've had both Blaster Girl Katie Levine and Singleton Tyler Cale both on here talking about music. So.
Didn't you have Moy on too?
Yeah, I had Logan Moy last week.
Yeah. I saw him on there. Yeah, it's cool. So yeah, Katie's working for another company, I guess, and
she's doing the Nerdist, which is pretty big. Yeah,
that's a big deal. Hardwick's taken off with that thing, man. I mean, that's another thing. I'll bet if a network heard that idea, they'd be like, okay, and yeah, I don't know, whatever, but. The fact that he's in control is the key. Just like you're in control of your thing, and people know what's best. They know what their audience likes, and you're going to know because of the feedback, and your audience. And he's definitely got an audience that is into a specific thing, and that's awesome. So that's a cool gig. I didn't know that's exactly what it was. I thought it was a different production company or something. I didn't know it was the Nerdist. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, the Nerdist expanded to like having 10 or 11 different podcast shows, and she's helping with all these. So she's working completely crazy hours trying to get these shows up and running, So.
Okay. The only negative thing to all these shows is there's all these shows. Like I want to listen and watch everything now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I need a DVR just for everything. Obviously you can download everything. You can throw it on your iPod or whatever, but I don't have time to listen to 10 shows a day. But I want to listen to 10 shows a day. I mean, there's so much stuff. Every time I get turned on to something new, I'm like, because I've listened to Hardwick's show. I've seen your show. I listen to Corolla. You got Damashek. There's a ton of stuff.
Joe Rogan's good too. Yeah.
Rogan, yeah. He's on a totally different plane with the guys he brings on because they talk about all kinds of stuff that no one gets into.
How about Joey Coco Diaz? You ever heard him on there?
Oh, when he's a guest?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God, I mean the energy of that guy is unreal. Like you think he's gonna have a heart attack any second. Like he goes on a rant. Like they were on. There's a conspiracy guy in Texas. What's his name?
I know what you're talking about. Alex Jones. Right?
Yeah, he has that kind of rough voice or whatever. Yeah, Alex Jones. And there's a clip of, I didn't hear the episode when they were on there. I guess you have to listen to Alex Jones' show to hear that. But
it's on YouTube, actually, the video. So
yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Is the clip is on YouTube. There's nothing funnier than that. He's just going off, and Joe Rogan is sitting back there just dying the whole time. It's fantastic, but. Yeah, Joey Diaz, what a great guest. When he's on, I definitely tune in because you never know what's going to happen. In his old stories, they had Stanhope on,
sure,
and Diaz at the same time, and they were telling stories about all these crazy drug stories and all these connections that Joey had. It's like, oh my God,
Stanhope confronted him for stealing change out of his change jar in the 90s.
Fantastic. Yeah, exactly. And he's like, change, I don't steal your chain. It was fantastic. That's another good show. I still listen to Stern. It's just too much to listen to. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I love it though. I love that there's all this stuff now to listen to. And you know what's funny is when Corolla started his show, I remember people saying, I had friends that were like, it's never going to work. Podcast. Who listens to podcasts?
What's a podcast? Yeah.
Yeah, there's already podcasts out there though. I mean, when Corolla started, there was stuff going on. No one had gotten over the hump yet,
Sure.
and he made that happen, but and paved the way, I think, for a lot of guys now. But yeah, podcasts are. I mean, I love the fact whether you're doing it in video form or whatever, and I like the vlog stuff. Like being an MMA fan, Dana White does a vlog before each, or 3 or 4 of them before each bout, each
sure.
card.
Yeah.
And it's great because, and a lot of guys are doing that with different things. So you get to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff you would have never seen, growing up as a kid, like when you were like 12 or 14 and you wanted to go to a concert, how exciting was it to be able to see that band? Now you have access to that band in so many ways that you never had.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
You know what and you've grown up with the internet longer than I have. I mean, you had it for most of your life. I didn't. So, you were in your teens probably, I guess, when the internet started getting around in full force, or...
Sure, yeah.
Now, I don't know when you got it first when you were a kid. I got it in 94, I think. I had America Online, I think, in 94, dial-up,
sure.
Or whatever. So, but we have access now, like behind the scenes and all these rehearsal sessions and these acoustic sets and just all this stuff that people can bring to the table. It's really cool. And I love it, man. I love having kind of that third, fourth, fifth wall being broken down now. You get to see every single aspect of shows, how they're made, what goes on beforehand, after. It's really cool for fans to be able to see that kind of stuff. It's neat. So, yeah, I love it. I'm glad I'm living in this period of time. And there's a little bit of part of me that is has a romantic feeling about what was it like to grow up in the 50s and 60s when everything was new, like rock was new and this and that. But I love the technology now. I love to be able to connect with so many people and do so many things. So it's pretty awesome because if in the 60s, you would be in Hollywood pitching a show to the networks, and if you got on, you got on. If you didn't, you didn't. But you could take your thing and make it happen now. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I believe the pros totally outweigh the cons. I mean, sure, the record business died in the last 10 years pretty much.
Yeah.
However, now we have all these new social medias. It's so much easier to put yourself out there without any middlemen. I think pros totally outweigh the cons. And Yeah, I mean, as far as the record company or the record business slowly dying, it's funny. Like I still hear on Facebook and stuff. Like I'm friends with the singer of Cracker, David Lowery,
Oh yeah, okay.
and he just goes on these screeds about how if you're not paying full price for a CD, I mean a CD in 2012, that you're stealing money out of his back pocket. And he just goes on and on about it. And I don't know. I think David Lowery's just kind of a little stuck in the past. He needs to realize that the shift has left the port, and there's got to be other ways to make your payday, man. So.
Yeah, I feel like for me, like I said, I think that a lot of people are doing this. You look at Carolla; he gives away the podcast. A lot of work goes into it. The podcast is free. You can listen to the podcast. You have to pay for the stream, but you can listen to the audio podcast for free. And a lot of people are giving their product away, but attaching advertisement or maybe giving certain things away for free and selling other things, or they're selling singles or whatever. There's a lot of ways to make money with your product. You can't control the market. Whatever's going to happen with technology in the market, you have to play the game. And like you said, there's pros and cons to it. I think the pros do outweigh the cons. I like the fact that, like I was talking about, putting covers, 4 covers a month. And then if I do start releasing, because I do have a lot of original stuff I've written, I probably do want to see 99 cents for it or 89 cents for it. Sure. If I sell a single. But I'll give you 4 songs for free every month, and hopefully one of those you like, or all 4 or whatever. Hopefully there's something you like with the free content. I'm going to try to give away as much stuff as I can, and then maybe give you one thing every month or one thing every 2 months for 99 cents or something like that. And I might end up doing that because I get so many requests for songs. Why not do that? But yeah, I'm willing to do that. And it's fun to do the covers and to put those out there and and so yeah, he might want to, I mean, look, you can't fight what's going on now. And also thinking about selling a CD. I haven't even thought about buying a CD or especially making and selling a CD since the 90s. I mean, I really haven't. I think the last CD I bought was, wow. Oh my God. I mean, I'm really having a hard time with that. Like maybe Junior Brown. One of Junior Brown's last CD that he brought out was probably the last one. I don't know when that came out. Huh. I mean, that's the last one I bought. I don't know if you're familiar with Junior Brown that much, but
yeah, like what I do at this secondhand mall is I buy. They're priced at $197, and wow. I mean, obviously all these are out of print. They're complete catalogs from old bands and stuff like that, and they're all mint condition. So I go, okay, I'll buy 10 of them. I buy a stack and then bring them home. I'm the only one of my friends buying a stack of CDs in 2012. But exactly. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I have a CD wall in my house that it holds about 1,000 CDs. And, I mean, I still do the downloading and stuff like that of the new stuff because, I mean, it's hard finding new CDs anymore. But I do kind of like that tangible thing of just having the old-fashioned CD around and reading the liner notes. I know you said you haven't done that for a long time. But,
right.
Yeah, I think that kind of sets me apart a little bit. But, yeah, as far as new CDs and actually trying to make a business out of it, I mean, I wonder how David Lowery think of me paying $1.97 for his CD. I mean, is that stealing? Right. Is that piracy? Then, I mean, the whole world's kind of screwed if you think that's true. So.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to find out I mean, look, if you just appeared on this planet and you were going to be an artist of some kind, especially a musician, you would find out how to take your product and get it to the people. You want to make money, but you have to figure out whatever way that is, and he needs to get into that mindset, I feel, and kind of go down that road because, like I said, you can't fight what's going on now. There's a certain way. I mean, how are you going to tell a 16-year-old, buy my CD? or you know what I'm saying? Like,
pre-order my CD for $20. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's not going to happen. Things have changed, and they've changed fast, and that's another thing I think that caught people off guard. If you were in a successful band or, oh man, hold on a second. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
All right.
Was that Damashek?
No. Yeah. He's like, what are you doing? No. Get off the phone. No, he's like, that was my crazy business phone. But No business on Sunday, by the way, for me. That's the one day I just cannot take gigs on a Sunday. Sunday night I'll talk and text and stuff like that, but man, during the week it's crazy. And Saturday, sure, I'm cool, but I got to have one day where I'm just hanging out. Like, this is fun. This isn't work, but yeah, you get those calls where it's like, hey, those tracks you sent me 2 weeks ago? Do you mind? It's like,
I'm observing the Sabbath. Come on.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be me, but I get your point.
Still use it as an excuse, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Hey, look, this is my holy day, pal.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a break. But so hey, have you always lived? I don't know if you want me asking you a question, but have you lived in Illinois your entire life? Have you ventured out to like New York or L.A. or anything like that, or?
I've traveled out to L.A. a couple times, handful of times, and but I've totally always lived about 20 minutes from Chicago. People say I talk like the super fans from SNL a little bit, but yeah, I like sausage and stuff like that,
No, I can hear the accent, but it's not crazy. I mean, look, I have friends that grew up around there, like in places like Peoria, and they have way more of a northern accent than you do. They used to give me a hard time about sounding like I was from Alabama, and I used to tease them and say, you sound like you're from Canada, and neither one was true. Neither one of us knew what we were talking about. Like, Canadians sound nothing like people from northern Illinois, and I sounded nothing like people from Alabama. So it was just our way of joking around. But no, I can hear it, but I kind of like it. It makes me a little homesick, actually, thinking about Illinois a little bit. Yeah, it's one of those things I've been thinking about for a long time, is getting a second place back somewhere, like somewhere where it's cold in the winter, where the summers are mild, because I'm in Arizona and it's like 200 degrees in the summer here, and where I could have like a big piece of land. And maybe spend part of the year there, and why wait till you're some old 65, 75-year-old person, retirement age, to have two homes? Why not have some place, if you can swing it, and real estate's cheap now? I thought, why not maybe try to find something back somewhere. I don't know where exactly, probably not around where I grew up exactly, but somewhere, and get a piece of land with a house on it, and have something to go to, for a month at a time, or during the holidays or whatever, because
sure,
the drive will be relatively short to the family and friends back there and stuff like that, and everything. And I'd kind of like to give my kid that experience now and then, because we're in Phoenix, we're in a suburb of Phoenix, we're in the city basically, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it would be kind of cool to give him that experience now and then, to kind of let him, roam free a little bit and have that. I'm not saying a rural experience, but that whole Midwestern experience a little bit.
Sure.
I think it's kind of cool. I always vibe with people from the Midwest when I meet them, and I don't even know they're from the Midwest yet. Like in LA, people do that. Like you'll find people kind of find each other, and I've met a lot of guys from the Midwest, and we get along, and it's all of a sudden you realize, oh, you're from, oh, okay, wow, you're from Ohio, you're from Indiana, and you kind of have this thing. So, yeah, I'd kind of like to give my son that experience. So
yeah, I was living downtown in the city for a couple of years when I was doing school, and got kind of burnt out on that whole thing. Taking public transportation. I mean, I saw a kid take a crack hit in my same bus one time. I was just like kind of burnt out on all that stuff. So I moved back out to the burbs, and now I've got front yard, backyard. I got a grill, I got a driveway, a garage, an SUV. Sure. It's kind of nice,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yet I got a 7-Eleven across the street, so it's like I got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. You can get a Slurpee anytime you want.
Exactly.
But yeah, I kind of, I really like the lifestyle I have now, as far as I like being around, where I can go anywhere I want, anytime, restaurants, everything really close. But I'd kind of like to have that experience and just get away for a while. And I work a lot, and I'd like to be able to just take some time. And with my schedule, I can't create exactly the exact schedule I want, but I can take time off when I want. And I can take a week, I can take a couple weeks here and there. So if I had a place to go to, that would be kind of cool, and just kick back and let my son enjoy that. And I mean, he's too young now, but by the time, I'm able to do this and everything, he'll be old enough to kind of see what's going on. And so that'd be kind of cool. I grew up in the Midwest, and I don't think I would change that, experience. When I left, and I was very naive, I moved to LA, and I go from a town from 8,000 people to 12.5 million. And it was a culture shock and a half, man. I don't think I came out of my apartment for a month. I went to school and went back home. I went back to my 500 square foot apartment, and I just freaked out. Like, I was like, I don't know what to do. I'd go to the grocery store, and there's like a homeless guy playing the guitar in front of the Ralph's and the grocery store, and I'd never seen a homeless guy. I was 18, 19 years old, so I would recommend people do that though, because it definitely will progress your thinking tenfold by moving to a large city when you go from a small town. I mean, look, I talked to people who could barely speak English. I had friends that I had never, from parts of the world that I'd never, even knew about really. It was pretty cool and scary at the same time. And then that kind of got me over that hump. And then I was pretty comfortable from that point on living in different cities. Like, I moved to Orlando after that, and it was like moving back to a small town,
Sure.
But I would recommend that, and you've grown up around Chicago, so you know and you've lived in the city, so you have that. But you grow up and there's cornfield on one side and a bean field on the other side, and then the next thing you know, you're in LA, and it's 500 square foot of apartment, and you've got to pay for parking everywhere, and you're getting parking tickets, and there's gangs, and this was
LA riots about that time? Yeah.
No, this is 20 years ago. So you're talking about, I was right before the riots. I think right. That's when I first got there.
It's sketchy though. Yeah.
Oh, Hollywood was like, the west side of Hollywood now is super nice. Corolla always talks about it, but the gay population moved into West Hollywood and just did a makeover. And it's true, man. That place you could eat off the sidewalks in West Hollywood. I'm serious. It's beautiful there. It's
nice.
It's so nice. If somebody dropped you into that area, you'd be like, wow, this is awesome. If they said it's Hollywood, you'd be like, really? Middle of Hollywood, still a little seedy. East side of Hollywood's just there's a Home Depot on the east side of Hollywood, and I'm used to going down to the Home Depot, and there's a lot of guys in there with their guts hanging over their belts, and
sure.
and a lot of dudes in there that look like they're farmers' tans. They've been working on their house or whatever, and that's fine. And I do a lot of work and stuff. I did all the work on the last house that I sold, and so I'm used to going down there and grabbing what I need. And
some vatos, some gangbangers. No,
it was the scariest place I've ever been in my life. Like, I parked my truck, and I walk into Home Depot in East Hollywood, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like, this is the end. Like, I felt like somebody on the news, they had said a nuclear weapon had gone off in the middle of the country. You have 15 minutes to now get supplies together and build your bomb shelter or whatever. That's what it felt like. It really felt like a movie, and real super dirty, real seedy, lots of gangbanger types hanging out and stuff like that, and everything. And that was the only trip I ever made there, by the way.
I can just hear the Cisco Kid playing by War out of these people's lowriders and stuff.
It was scary. But yeah, the Home Depot, not a good time. But back then Hollywood was all bad. I mean, it was all nasty back then. It was a mess. So, I lived on Hollywood Boulevard the first year I lived there. The second year I lived off of Melrose, and I lived on Sycamore both times. Sycamore runs north and south, and Melrose and Hollywood Boulevard run east to west, and Hollywood Boulevard, I mean, that used to be, still is somewhat, but one of the seediest areas. And I walked to school a couple times, and that's a scary. Well, I should say I ran, actually. Crazy story. I'm not a huge guy, but I'm a decent size. Well, I'm fat right now, but I'm a decent sized guy, and I played football in high school, and I wasn't pushed around or any of that stuff in high school, and and never had any issues with bullying or any of that stuff. And I'm from a small town, and somebody gives you a hard time, and it's nose to nose kind of a situation when you're growing up. And when I got to LA back, 90, I guess 90, whatever it was, and I'm at MIT, I parked my car in the parking lot across the street. You had to pay to park your car. I park it, and I'm in there jamming, and I think we're playing a bunch of old Van Halen tunes, actually. Guys were huge Van Halen fans, playing like Unchained and all these old tunes.
Sure.
And we're jamming all this stuff, and it's like 1 a.m. We're like, we better get out of here. So we leave, and we leave one of these rehearsal spots, and we go out the front door, and there's an alley, and then there's a parking lot across the street. And so I walk out the door, and there's like 4 dudes behind me, and that I was playing with, and they're standing there inside still. And I walk out the door. Okay, guys, see you later. I'll walk, and I see a guy messing around with the window on my car.
Oh, great!
And he's about 5'4", maybe 5'5". He's skinny. He's probably 130 pounds, and he's messing around. And I'm like, hey, I'm like yelling, and I'm getting all macho on the guy, and I'm like, what, what the F, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And he looks at me, kind of freezes, and just stands there by the car. And I just start walking real fast towards him. And I get about halfway to him, and he looks to the side, and I look over to the side when he looks, because I think maybe there's another dude there, like a lookout or something.
Okay.
And there's nobody, and I don't see anything. And I'm saying stuff to him. I'm pointing to him, and I'm going to pick him up and slam him on the ground. I'm 19, and I'm going to kick ass or whatever, right? So I'm walking up to the dude, and I'm a lot bigger than him, and I'm maybe 15 feet away. I'm really close to him, and he just bolts. And I look over, and there's headlights, and there's a car, and there's probably 8 dudes in that car.
Uh-oh.
And they're all gangbangers, and they're all rough-looking dudes. And at that point, I feel like, well, it's been a nice 19 years of life. I'm dead. These guys are going to pull guns out. And this is what they do. They don't say anything. They do nothing but drive real slow. The guy gets in the car with him, and it's packed. It's packed. It's a lowrider. They drive by me. They're maybe, at this point, 20 feet away. And the guys, by the way, at MIT in the doorway are just screaming at me like, come on, dude, come on back, get back here. They're freaking out. They're losing their minds. And I'm just standing there frozen by my car, and they're in between me and the door, and they drive maybe a mile an hour by me and stare at me the whole way and then just drive slowly off.
Oh, wow. You lucked out of that one. Shit.
Oh my God. In my mind, I'm thinking, can I make it to the door before all these dudes get out of the car? Can I get in my car before these guys get out of the car? And the answer was no to both of those. And I was like, where am I going to run? Guys covered in tattoos, that are going to kill me.
Oh, man. Hey, the sound's cutting off for a sec. You get that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Is that better?
Yeah, that's way better. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not sure exactly what happened in those guys' minds. I'm sure they were like, he's not worth it. But wow, that was the scariest moment I had out there. And by the way, I never walked to school anymore. I never did any of that kind of stuff because I was like, these are the kind of guys that are hanging out 1 a.m. I'm just going to drive. I'm going to check. I'm going to look both ways before I get in my car every night. I'm going to quietly get in my car and drive back to the parking garage. That was a scary moment, man. I mean, you come from cornfields to LA and you got gangbangers driving around at night. It's freaky. I knew a guy that used to run home after school. He didn't have a car. So he'd get a ride to school and then he would run home. He was probably in the best shape of anybody. He was running probably, I don't know how many blocks back. I mean, he was quite a ways away in his apartment, and he would run. I mean, he would walk out the door, see you guys later, books or folder in his hand, the whole deal, backpack, whatever, and he would just start his speed walk around the corner. And the later it was, like if it was dark, he was a full sprint. If there was still some light out, he would kind of just walk fast and look down. He was scared to death, man. He was scared of a shadow anyway, and you put him in a place like that, and he was from a small town too, and it freaked him out. But pretty cool education though, going out there and look back on it and think about the farmers market before it was what it is now. It's a whole full blown thing, and back then, I mean, I used to go down there and see Anthony Kiedis hanging out and Flea, and the Chili Peppers at the time. Chad was the drummer was living across the hall from a buddy of mine who lived in a crappy apartment like I had. And, they weren't real big at the time. I think they were just starting to bring out, what is that the year they brought out Blood Sugar Sex Magic?
Yeah, that would be about Blood Sugar Sex Magic era, I think.
Yeah, it was right before the album dropped, or maybe right when it did, and they were getting ready to go on tour. And so none of them had a ton of money. Anthony Kiedis, like I said, hanging out at the old farmers market, and that's back when it was just looked like a tent, like it was just, that's what it was back then. It's still an awesome hangout. It's like the coolest place to hang out. You go into the bar in the middle of that place. I've been there with Damashek a lot of times, and just with different people, and hang out in that middle bar area, get something to drink, and just hang out and people watch. It's a great time, and nothing better on a lazy afternoon.
Relaxing, yeah, nice.
Oh, it's the best, But yeah, so I used to see those guys hang out there a lot, and then Chad was lived across the hall, and no one complained because he's such a good drummer, but he had a kit in his apartment, and you couldn't hear anything anywhere else in that building when he practiced. But pretty cool. Boy, he's involved in everything now. Wow, he does everything from the Dixie Chicks to now he's doing
that Chicken Foot band, right? Yeah,
Chicken Foot now. So I mean, how old is Sammy Hagar, and how young is his voice and just him in general? I mean, he's over 60, right?
Yeah, he's got to be, right? Yeah,
like 63 or 2. I mean, the guy, still sounds good. Still, I mean, you could be a fan or not, but the whole thing about just longevity. Wow, what a career!
And he took Michael Anthony away from Van Halen too. So
exactly. What do you think about the new Van Halen?
It's weird. Like that Tattoo song, I kind of dig it. Actually, to be perfectly honest, I mean, have you seen the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see David Lee Roth up there, and it's just like, I feel like new bands, these hipsters with tight jeans and the heroin chic look. I don't know, like just mean mugging the camera. At least David Lee Roth looks like he wants to put on a show, wants to entertain. He's from the old school, obviously, but I mean it's not really reinventing the wheel, but it's something that I can at least, like Carolla said, you hear the first lick of a Van Halen song, you just say that's Van Halen. You don't have any questions about it,
Yeah, exactly. That tone will always, I mean, people think that's just his setup or whatever. It's just fingers, man. It's like everybody sounds like themselves when they plug into other people's rigs. There's that old story of, I don't know who it was, Ted Nugent or one of these old, older rocker guys saying, I was playing with, we're playing with Van Halen, and I was like, wow, listen to that sound he's got. Let me play through your rig, because I wanted to get that tone. He goes, I pick up his guitar and start playing through his rig, and I sound like Ted Nugent, and,
yeah.
And he picks up my stuff, and he sounds like Eddie Van Halen. So, I mean, obviously there's a setting on his amp. There's a certain thing he goes for and a way he sets stuff up, but still his tone. But it's his fingers. I mean, everybody has that thing. I'm sure I sound like whatever I sound like when I pick up someone's guitar and all that. So everyone has their different thing. But yeah, Van Halen, I was a big fan, not in high school, actually, because in high school I listened to a lot of metal. It was a weird time. Like I said, I rebelled against what I'd listened to before, so I went as far as I could into the heaviest thing I could find, and so if it wasn't heavy, I wasn't into it. And then my senior year, I started kind of expanding my horizons a little, or whatever. I was like, okay, I'm done with that, the 3-year, 4-year period of metal. I want to start listening to other things. Start listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan, and start listening to whole different thing, and got into REM a little bit, and just all kinds of music, and U2, and just different stuff, and then once I got out of that, or out of high school, I started getting into Van Halen and the old Van Halen stuff. And I had a friend who I'd met who became the guitar player in a couple bands I was in. He really showed me, he had a bunch of Van Halen bootlegs and educated me on old Van Halen, and just I got into it. I liked it a lot, and I thought it was kind of cool. The energy was great. Those albums, they sound like they just walked in their studio and recorded them live. You know, they had
Sure,
that
yeah.
cool energy to it and stuff, and I really liked that. And so I got into it, and then, you know, I got into everything at that point. Around 1920 is when I really started listening to about anything I could get my hands on and listen to it. I became a huge fan. And then in the early 90s, when I found Jeff Buckley, also found him through Ed, the guitar player guy, introduced me to Jeff Buckley, and I was like, wow. Because that's at the point I was in that band. And, you know, I remember going to practice going, why are we playing music? Like, this guy's unreal. Like, we saw him live in Pittsburgh, and I think Juliana Hatfield opened up for him,
Sure.
which is the biggest contrast of, you know what I mean? She's out there playing, like, 3-chord, you know, indie rock.
College
stuff.
rock, yeah.
Yeah, college rock or whatever, and she's out there, you know, my sister, whatever that song was, and people are, you know, bopping their heads back and forth and stuff like that. But Jeff Buckley, by the way, he opened for Juliana Hatfield. So sad. But he was unbelievable. I don't think he looked at his guitar the entire show, and he never missed a note. He looked like it was effortless singing. Like it's just unreal. Like, I'd never seen anybody do that. Like, he just stood there playing his guitar, little joke with the audience now and then, and just blew us away on the guitar. If he would have just played guitar, he would have blown us away. The way he was playing some of the riffs that he played and singing over the top of those, it still boggles my mind how there's just a different level when it came to his musicianship, you know. I think he was almost too good for his own good in some respects. Like, he was so ahead of his time, I feel, you know.
Yeah, it's cool that you were a fan while he was still living, because, I mean, he won so many fans after he died, but he was just playing these little tiny clubs, correct?
Yeah, he really never played any huge. I think when he toured Europe, as it happens a lot of times, as it happened with the other great band NSYNC, when NSYNC, you know, a lot of bands would go to Europe, hit it big, come back to the States. Well, he had a big following over there, I guess, and I don't know if they were more open to his style. You know, maybe his style fit Euro rock a little better at the time. I don't really know. You know, we had a lot of grunge going on when Grace came out. So, you know, Pearl Jam was still pretty hot at the time, and he wasn't doing that. So I'm not sure, you know, but yeah, he didn't play a lot of big venues. I think he got some theater gigs. Maybe he did some theaters in different cities where he had bigger followings. And this place was good size. It was a good sized place. It was decent. I mean, there's probably 1,200 people there, but it was a Juliana Hatfield crowd. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's who they came to see. And she played. I think they played the identical amount of time. Like, I think he played an hour and a half and she played an hour and a half. I don't know. I left 30 minutes into her set, but I think they were scheduled to play the same amount of time. But yeah, he was unreal. But yeah, he was playing a lot of clubs. He wasn't a huge thing. I mean, really, a lot of musicians, a lot of people who got turned on to him in college at the time, maybe. And you know, we were around that age. So I think you kind of had to, you know, I think if at the time, if you were older than I was, or maybe even younger, like in high school, you'd have no idea who Jeff Buckley was at the time, probably, unless you were just a complete music nerd immersed in everything that came out. I don't think you would ever hear Jeff Buckley, but that Grace album is still on my top 5 list.
Oh, sure.
It's
I'm waiting to see the bio flick. You know, I think that story is just primed to get like a Hollywood makeover. You know, I pitched it that James Franco should play him because they look alike. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's just such a weird story about how he went night swimming one night and never came back. You know, just a weird story. So.
Yeah, very. You know, it would lend itself to a lot of conspiracy theories, but really. And there may be some, but I've never heard anybody talk about it. It was just bad luck. I don't think he was drunk, or I don't think they found drugs in his system or anything. I don't think he was, you know, whacked out his brain showing up, you know, like, hey, let's go swimming. And, you know, and you know what I mean? I just think he's at the most a $145.
Yeah.
You know, real small, slight guy. Not that it would matter. He probably could have been, you know, Olympic swimmer, and those currents in that river are brutal.
Probably just hit his head somehow and lights out. Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Bad luck, and it's real unfortunate. Super talented dude, went way too early and in his prime, really. You know, he's one of those guys that I could have made some amazing stuff. I bought the double disc, My Sweetheart the Drunk,
Sure.
double disc and stuff, and there was mostly unfinished, unpolished. Some of the stuff he probably wouldn't want people to hear,
Yeah.
I'm sure, because he was very much a perfectionist. And there were a lot of rumors, I guess, maybe it's not a rumor, but guys that are even bigger fans than I were saying that they heard that some of the guys that were working with him at the time said he was going to scratch all that stuff and kind of start over or retool most of it anyway. So, but it was kind of cool to hear it, you know, him at home making those demos where he's like hitting a bass drum, a kick drum with his foot and like playing the guitar, and his voice has way too much reverb, and it was so cool. I love that kind of stuff. Pretty neat. I mean, actually he was doing like the White Stripes at home. Yeah, before Jack did his thing. Are you a fan of them or?
Yeah, definitely. I really feel the talent of Jack White. I mean, he's kind of like from that older school, you know, the Dylan era, you know, kind of. And while I don't always listen to it every day, or I wasn't like a enormous fan of them, I definitely have respect for his, you know, original sound, you know, doing it kind of like the old school way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I like how he's got like a record label truck or something that he drives around now. It's like a school bus turned into an old record label where he sells 45s out of it. So it's just something different and quirky and kind of almost creepy, but cool at the same time, you know?
I love the fact that he works with, like, you know, he worked with Loretta Lynn, and I love that he respects and works with that kind of stuff. You know, you were talking about before about a lot of the kind of the hipster stuff that goes on now with, you know, insanely tight jeans, guys that are scowling at the audience the entire time. He's a true performer. You know, he's definitely gives you your money's worth. And that's what I like about him. I don't know how much I am into the twosome of them as much as I just like when I hear he's involved in something, I know it's probably going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think you know, unlike the Black Keys, which I can watch actually those two guys together a lot.
Sure.
Meg White, I mean, look, I mean, I'm not going to rip on her playing because it suits what they're doing and stuff like that. But I do like when Jack sets in with guys who are just amazing, you know, and they can really expand and he can just go for it and they can hang with his playing. You know what I mean? I love that. I'd like to see him continue to keep doing different, and I'm sure he will do different projects over the years and just continue to go into every genre and not be, you know, kind of pigeonholed into one thing. I like that a lot. But yeah, the Black Keys, wow, did you watch any of the, God, I always forget the name of the rap thing they did, Black Rock?
Oh yeah, Black Rock, R-O-C.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, have you watched that on YouTube?
I sure have, and I've heard the album. It's awesome. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, the album's great. Watching that on there, every time I'm not inspired to do anything, like, you know, which is a lot. Seriously, you know, I'm like a lot of guys. Whatever my profession is, I find myself wanting to do something else. Like, you know, like, hey, that needs work on. Maybe I'll go give my car a tune-up. Whatever. I'm always looking for something else. Maybe it's just an excuse not to work, but every time I feel lazy, I sit and watch that thing. And God, I love the vintage equipment they have, the sound, the music. If you're into rap or not, a lot of guys I know, you know, don't like rap or whatever. And it's like, fine, but you gotta like this.
Yeah.
The music is worth it. Just the music itself is awesome. The stuff they created on there was great. His voice is I think is amazing too. But yeah, what a great project that was. I love bands like that. I love that kind of thing. Yeah, those dudes are so amazing. They got the technical prowess, the musicianship. They've got that vintage collection of stuff they've got. And now that they're making cash, they can get anything they want. And you know, you look at a guy like John Mayer and you look at his pedal collection. I don't sit around listening to John Mayer all the time, but I did watch him do one of the coolest videos I've seen in a while too was him doing he was in New York recording I'm trying to think of the song and I can't think of it. Keep saying it's annoying. He did a song in they basically created it in the studio. They showed it as he created the song with a bunch of other dudes, really great musicians.
Oh, cool.
Top level dudes, and he had his pedal collection out that he had bought on the road the previous year. He had like 50 pedals sitting out there, and he had some really cool pedals. And I'm gonna blank on all the names, so I won't try to think of all of them. But there's a bunch of different pedals, and he was creating like an organ sound, and they created this really cool tune with him, using this organ sound. The drummer created this really cool groove. He wrote the lyrics on the spot. Probably the best tune he's ever done. It's not really along the lines of everything he does all the time. And it was a good tune. I just happened upon it. I was looking at live music on YouTube one day, just doing like a search of just live music, checking out different people, and that video appeared, and watched it. But yeah, that's something you got to check out. Obviously, I can't give you the name because I'm blanking on it. But if I could give you the name of the tune, it would help. But yeah, look for that. Just like put John Mayer Studio in, and you'll eventually run across it. It's really cool, and I love stuff like that. That whole Black Rock, Black Keys thing. Wow, that to me is what I love about new media, about people taking cameras and just opening up their world to you.
Yeah, showing you behind the curtain a little bit, right? Yeah.
I love it. I've always been a sucker for knowing, like, a lot of times I'm not even interested in, like, John Mayer. I don't own any of his music, really. I don't, I'm not going to go to his shows and scream for him or anything. But I love the fact that he did that studio video, basically recording from the time they got there until they left in the middle of the night, like at 4 or 5 a.m. when the song was done. I love that process thing. I love the process. I love people's backgrounds. That to me is more interesting than almost what they do. Like, going back to Carolla, the fact that he always brings up his past, talks about growing up, still is connected with his friends. It gives you a whole different layered feeling of a guy and where he comes from and his attitude and what he brings to the table. If you knew nothing about his past,
you wouldn't be that as interested. Yeah.
Funny and entertaining, but you would understand now why he says the things he does. When he calls his dad a puss, you understand now why he's saying those things. When he talks about being poor and all those different things, now you understand how poor and what kind of family he had and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of get his take on his political takes on taxes and whatever it might be. So I think you kind of get a feel for that. But yeah, I love the process, and I think you get a better respect. And this name's gonna maybe make you step back a little bit, but Lady Gaga or Stephanie Germanotta or whatever her real name is, unbelievably talented piano player and singer.
Sure.
Watch her sit and play the piano and just sing. Go out and go search YouTube. Find her on Ellen, for instance, which is a show I don't really watch, but find her on Ellen singing a song just acoustically on the piano with a band, like an old Elton John kind of setup. It doesn't get much better than that talent-wise. Like, she playing the piano, she's not playing, skeleton hands, up and down. She's playing the piano, and she's singing on key, which is another thing you don't find a lot nowadays with auto-tune a lot. She's blowing you away with her range and all that kind of stuff, but all we see is obviously the persona, the crazy outfits, the albums that are made for clubs. You know what I mean? And that stuff, it drives me crazy. But just stripped down acoustically, somebody brought her up in like 2008 to me, and when I was working at ESPN, and I was like, yeah, I don't. They were like, I'll bet you hate that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't care for that kind of music, because they were playing like one of her songs, and it was, it was like this, thump thump thump,
yeah,
house music, whatever, and I can't remember which one, and off of her first album, and I was like, yeah, I don't like that crap. And then it sounds like, Madonna or something to me. Whatever, it's not for me. And then I was on YouTube one time, again, doing one of those late night up at 2 a.m. searches on the laptop for live music. And it was her on some Aussie radio station. and she was playing she was just playing the piano, no reverb, no anything, no EQ, radio microphone, as dry as you get, just a plain old keyboard, playing and singing one of her songs in a completely different way. I was like, oh my God, this chick's unreal. Like, she's really good. Like, she's really talented. She's not some, studio creation, auto-tuned, whatever. And so I did a search for her, I just did Lady Gaga acoustic.
Sure.
And I came up with this whole list of her playing the piano. And I have a really big kind of an appreciation for her talent now. And I also watched some videos of her when she had long brown hair playing in college, just playing in like a theater for her college, like, when she was in music school or whatever. And I was like, wow, she's really good. It's a shame that you can't just do that and get the kind of fame that she has. You kind of have to go out on the edge and be this freak in a way in front of people and do the old kind of David Bowie, put on the outfit.
Personas and yeah.
Yeah, and it's too bad because you're not going to get the cred. I heard Billy Joel talking about her and saying people just don't understand how talented she is because that's what they see. But go watch her play acoustically. Like, she went on Howard Stern and just played the piano and sang, and she turned everybody on that show around because everybody on that show was pretty much, they were treating her a little nice before she came on, but for the most part, people in the behind the scenes, which you got Richard Christie, who's a metalhead and a great drummer, and all these guys, they were coming forward after her appearance going, wow, that was crazy. She blew me away. She was amazing. Her voice is great, crazy, and her piano playing is amazing. She's a concert pianist, trained pianist and stuff. But you're never going to see that when she's out doing choreography and singing,
Sure,
whatever.
Yeah. A newfound respect. Yeah, I can liken that to, like, when I was growing up, I was about 12 years old. Like, Nirvana was the biggest band, They were pretty punk rock, pretty grunge rock. Then the guy killed himself. There was drug rumors and everything. My parents obviously didn't really like that stuff. Then they saw the Unplugged, and they said, wow, the guy's actually got a great voice, great chops, great songs, too, to go along with it. We never heard these songs before, and now we got a whole newfound respect for it, new light shown on it, so...
Exactly. You were 12 when that came out?
Yeah, I guess 94. I was probably 11 or 12. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Wow, I'm old. Anyway, I was 20, whatever, 22 or whatever I was. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember I was a huge fan of the Temple of the Dog album.
Sure. Yeah.
Have you listened to that much?
Oh, definitely. I love it.
That is a great mix of almost a country sound, getting the most out of his voice, which is one of the best rock voices of all time.
Cornell, right? Yeah.
Chris Cornell, and just that band, which were members of Pearl Jam and so on. Just that vibe, that album to me, I've listened to it 10,000 times probably over the years, and it's one of those albums I would get stuck on and just listen to over and over again in the car, and I've lost it and downloaded it and 1,000 times and stuff. So yeah, those guys are that was an amazing album. I love that. That vibe, when I heard that, I was like, that's the band I want to be in. Like, I want to be in that band. Of course, you can't recreate that, but that's the kind of music. I kind of like a little bit of that, little bit of country, just a little sprinkling in with that nice vibe that they had at the time with that music. And I don't even know what you would call it. I don't know. You can't call it.
How about heavy Americana?
Yeah, exactly. it's kind of like that. Like, not a huge John Mellencamp fan, but because that's what they consider Americana music. But yeah, that's what I would call that Americana. That's exactly right. It's a little heavier version of that.
How about the Meat Puppets?
Meat Puppets, yeah, great band.
I caught them live about a month ago. They played a little gig at the Double Door in Chicago. Blew my mind, So.
Oh, here's a band for you. Have you ever heard of Brad or Satchel?
Sure. Yeah, they're based out of Pearl Jam, right? Or the guitarist or something, Stone Gossard.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Stone was the guitar player, and they brought Shaun White, I think is his name, the lead singer. He does a lot of falsetto kind of stuff. And we used to play those were we played original music. The last band I was in played a lot of original music, but we did a lot of covers off those albums. We didn't do Buttercup, which is one of their coolest songs, but we did a couple others off those albums. And that Brad album, which has all the goofy looking faces on the front, really an odd looking CD.
Sure. Yeah.
Every song title is based off of the movie Reservoir Dogs.
Really, I did not know that, huh?
Mr. Pink and Mr. Brown and and in between the songs, you'll hear like God, I haven't seen Reservoir Dogs forever, but one of the what's the code, Papa, or something from Reservoir Dogs. In between the songs, you would hear a little clip, and then they would go. And I don't know how they got the rights to that, or if they even did. but yeah. And then I saw them live in Pittsburgh, and it was the saddest thing ever. Saw them live at this club. Can't remember the name of it. It's not there anymore, I don't think. But saw them live at a club in Pittsburgh, and there were maybe 15 people watching.
Wow, really? Huh.
And part of the audience was the opening act.
Oh.
It was
Their
really
parents?
sad. No. I mean, they were from Seattle, so they traveled across the country, and I thought these guys aren't even going to do this. Like, they're just going to go, screw this, travel across the country to do this gig. They got up there and they did about 8 songs, and they were like, thanks a lot. But you could tell they were bummed out. And I'm sure they did other gigs where there were 400 people there, but it just happened to be one of those nights where there wasn't a lot of promotion, and the weather was kind of bad. It was snowing outside, and it was like 15 people. Which is not the worst gig I've ever seen. I played in front of no one. I played in front of a club owner. And we played an entire gig in front of a club owner once. We showed up. There was nobody there. I thought, we're 2 hours early. No big deal. We start setting up. Gets to be about 45 minutes before the gig. We've done our sound check. I'm like, what's going on? And then one of the guys in the band, who ended up not being in the band not too long after that, for a lot of reasons, but he's actually a very good guy, but there were just a lot of weird, just didn't work out between all of us, But I think he was supposed to, or someone that maybe one of his friends or one of our friends in the band, was supposed to promote the gig. There was no promotion, so no one knew we were showing up. So we showed up to play, and all we had was the bar owner's wife laughing at us because she's like, "Didn't you guys tell anybody?" We're like, "Nah." And she's like, "Wow." So we played an hour and a half. We usually played 3 hours. We'd play, an hour and a half, take a break, play an hour and a half. We played an hour and a half in front of no one. Towards the end of the night, we were on like the 4th to the last song, and I was doing the talk-ups, which was hilarious. In between, like, "Hey guys, we're thinking about doing it," and it's like, "No, hey guys, there's no one there." The guys that helped carry the equipment, they were there, 2 guys, but they,
don't count, really.
Yeah, they don't count, right? They weren't paying, so we played the entire thing, and then towards the end, some guy who I think was homeless, who finally got up enough change to buy a draft beer, walked through the door and sat down at the very end of the bar, and watched us while he drank his beer. He watched 2 songs and walked out with a disgusted look on his face. That was the worst gig I've ever done. That one, and I also played a gig in a field one time when I was a teenager, and the generator that was powering us, the electrical generator,
sure,
was as loud as the band. So every song, and I have video of this, every song you can hear us playing, like whatever song it was at the time. We were playing like Dirty Deeds or something by AC/DC or whatever. And in the background, you hear this dun, 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 the whole entire time. And then when the song would end and the singer was doing the talk-ups, they're like, "Hey, thanks a lot, everybody, for coming out," that kind of thing. You hear in the background, dun, 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 the whole entire show. So that was a bad gig. There's a lot of bad gigs, but everybody that's ever played live will have that experience. Also played a thing called Ag Days in Mount Carmel, and we actually had a decent crowd, but they were way, 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 way away from the stage, and somebody videotaped it. And the videotape, all you can see is a stage and us, so it looks like there's no one there. In fact, he panned around to the crowd at one point.
Oh.
But there's people there watching. But it looks really funny because there's nobody there, and then all of a sudden there was this guy, and I'm not making fun of him. It wouldn't be right, but he was a mentally retarded guy, okay? But he would, and he was a sweet guy. He would come to a lot of the live performances during the week of Ag Days. Like, it's like a fair. Ag Days like a fair. And there would be live performances up on stage, everything from, acoustic acts to bands to square dance, I mean, everything. And we were playing this gig and playing the show, and he goes up and stands in front of the singer. So he looks like he's the only one there. Stands in place and trots, like, just like jogs in place.
Sure.
And stares at the singer the entire show. So he looks like he's the only one at the gig. That's another bad gig.
He's doing the Running Man? Yeah.
Yes, the whole entire show. At one point, he started breakdancing, which was kind of sad because it was asphalt. Oh. And, yeah, it was bad news. But no pads. He got skinned up, but he had a good time. And then we played our high school. And I think that gig went pretty well. We got everybody out of class, so they were happy, so we got a good response. We played our high school. We were in the gym, so the sound was bad. But you would never know because the videotape, the microphone on the camera, was one of those cameras that had a mic attached to it. It was supposed to be high quality, like a boom mic thing. It was unplugged. So it was a silent performance. Like, if you watch it, you're just watching us stand there, with our ridiculous outfits on.
No audio. No.
With no audio. I had a mustache and long hair. It was really bad. But anyway, yeah, those are some bad gigs. But anybody that's played live has played some super, super bad gigs. But so anyway, who's your pick today? Who's your?
I'm gonna go with the Pats. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of either team, but you can't go against Tom Brady.
Pretty much not.
Their secondary is not good. The Giants have a very good chance of picking them apart all day. But I see the Pats picking up, basically cementing Tom Brady's place. Not that it isn't already. His place in history is one of the best ever.
Just furthering it, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is saying, at this point, there's no doubt. You can't argue it anymore, Look, I'm jealous of the guy like everybody else. The guy's good looking, supermodels thing.
Yeah.
But, look, but he's easy to hate. And if you know Boston fans, if you have friends who are Boston fans at all, it's tough. It's tough to root for. Not that I'm rooting for them, but it's hard to ever pick them because Boston fans are tough because they don't just win and celebrate. You've heard this 1,000 times, but they win and shove it in your face.
Yeah.
Like, they want to talk about how bad you were in the game. Like, what happened again? How many times did Kelly get sacked? How many, whatever team that they're playing. I don't care if it's the Celtics playing the Bulls, whatever it is, they've got to rub it in your face. So, by the way,
it's funny though that the Giants fans are not exactly wilting lilies too.
Oh no, not at all. So that's a pretty good rivalry actually. A pretty good, I don't know if the rest of the country cares about it, but that's a pretty good, city rivalry they've got going now with Boston coming up through the ranks in the years with baseball and basketball. Always been there. I mean, they're Damashek hates this because he always says that, Pittsburgh's the city of champions, but now they're calling Boston city of champions, and they kind of are.
Pretty much, yeah.
Are. But how about the Bulls? I don't know if you're a Bulls fan, and I don't. My wife's a huge NBA fan and has been forever, but likes the Knicks, and she's from Illinois. I don't know what the deal is, but anyway, the Bulls. They look pretty good this year, man.
Yeah, they look great, actually. Yeah, the Knicks are doing pretty well, too. Last Sunday, we got the Bulls versus the Heat, and, LeBron had an awesome dunk, and LeBron rode his bike to the game, which was funny, too. So.
Yeah, what was that all about? What was that a stunt, or?
Well, I guess they said supposedly there was a bike marathon going around right in, around the stadium or something like that. And LeBron lives literally 15 minutes from the stadium, so he just took his King James bike and just put his helmet on and rode to the game. So,
nice. That's
all
great.
The power to him.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's about it for our show. I totally appreciate you taking an hour and a half out of your Sunday to kibitz with me. So.
Sure, absolutely, man. I enjoyed it. If I could mention, richbanks.com, which is my website,
sure.
And my Twitter, which is @richbanksmusic, and follow me on Twitter and check out the website. Like I said, I think this week I'll be posting I'm not going to give the song away because it's ridiculous, but I guarantee you will not get it until the chorus. Most people won't. You might. You're very knowledgeable. I will say it is a disco song from the 70s.
Cool. I'm totally looking forward to it. Awesome.
So a little acoustic guitar, and we'll see. And I'm going to try to put more content on my website. I get so many requests. I feel bad. Like I said, since 2007, I've just been, inundated with requests. Hey, post this, do that, and whatever. And I've been so lazy with it. And I'm going to start doing that. And I'll try to pull out some old songs from the past, some parodies and stuff that people keep requesting too, that, as long as the Corolla show is fine with some of that old stuff, so people can get access to it. I do think that the Corolla show, though, last time I talked to him, we're going to make available the Cherry Pie song and maybe some other stuff coming up. So look for that on adamcarolla.com. And I think they're going to make that available because that Cherry Pie thing has been hilarious. I've had more requests for that than anything I've ever done in my life. And I thought it was going to be a bit and go away, and it's become a big deal. So that's awesome. I'm really happy about that. And that's what inspired me to start doing these songs this way, because I was looking for an angle to kind of do covers, and it's a good angle to do. So I think as long as people are happy with it, and I'm going to put a comment section up. I might regret that, but I'm going to put a comment section up and let people say what they want. Don't worry, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I can take it. So just be honest and put what you want on there. And people can create profiles and stuff like that. I've got the web space, so I might as well bring people in and have a place for kind of people of all those shows to kind of, Damashek, Corolla, whatever, come to one place and kind of have some fun. So.
Yeah, I think we're all thirsty for new content from you. So totally looking forward to it. So, yeah, on behalf of Rich Banks, thank you so much for listening to the Andy Dare Show.
Be sure to follow Andy on Twitter. That's at Andy Dare, ANDYDERER. And like our show on Facebook. That's facebook.com/The Andy Dare Show. There's videos at youtube.com/Andrew Martin Dare. And it all leads back to theandydareshow.com. Support our show by supporting our sponsors. That's Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue and Secondhand Mall in Westmont, Illinois.